Welcome to the Hearth's Edge, Wanderers. I'm your magic mom, keeper of these flickering flames where the known kisses the wild unknown. This is Hearth's Edge Unraveled. This is the space where we tease apart the threads of our souls, one whisper at a time. So pull up a stool, let the fire warm your edges, and breathe in. Because tonight, we're listening to the voices we've been taught to hush. Our invocation tonight is coming from the Affirmator's Tarot, a single oracle pull to set the tone. And we get the Eight of Swords. And there she is, my friends, blindfolded, bound, surrounded by blades that aren't truly touching her skin, representing the edge of restriction, and it's self-imposed. But look closer. What if those swords are mirrors? What if the real bind is ignoring the whisper from within? Tonight's unraveling? Well, what if your shadow whispered back? We're diving into the heart of self, the raw, unpolished core where your true voice of reason lives. Not the inner critic barking from fear, but the quiet sage embedded in your shadow self. That part we've exiled to the corners, labeled too much or not enough. Spoiler, she's not here to sabotage. She's here to guide, with a reason, sharper than any sword. If you're new to the Hearth, this is your invitation. Shadow work isn't about battling demons, it's about befriending the messengers. And if you're a returning soul, hello, my loves. Grab your journal. We're unraveling together. So let's begin. Welcome to the Unravelings, Magic Tribe. Picture this. It's dusk on the Homestead. The kids are finally down. The day's chaos tucked away like folded laundry. And you sink into that worn armchair by the window, tea steaming in your hands, and the quiet creeps in. Not the peaceful kind, though. The kind that amplifies her. That voice. The one that says, "Who do you think you are, chasing these magic dreams? Stick to the script. Be the good mom, the steady one." We all know her. Society's dubbed her the voice of reason. Practical, protective, pulling us back from the edge. But what if I told you she's not reason at all? She's fear in a sensible coat. And the real voice of reason, she's been waiting in the shadows all along, whispering truths we've drowned out with shoulds and musts. So let's unravel this. Our first thread. What is the self, anyway? In the magic we weave, oracle cards, astrology, the stars etched in our numerology, the self isn't a solo act, is it? It's the whole damn tapestry. Light and shadow, woven tight. Carl Jung, that old alchemist of the psyche, called the shadow the thing a person has no wish to be. The parts we hide, the rage that flares when boundaries snap, the wild joy that scares us with its intensity, and the grief we've buried under, "I'm fine." But here's the magic flip. Your shadow isn't the villain in the story. She's the uninvited guest at the feast, carrying the map that you've lost. That voice of reason we chase, it's not in the polished ego, the one nodding along to the world's script. It's embedded deep in the self, the integrated whole, where shadow and light converse like old lovers. The shadow whispers back, not to wound, but to remind. Hey, soul sister, you're more than this cage. Listen. So let me share a thread from my own loom. Last equinox, I was unraveling a particularly stubborn knot myself, right? My numerology life path, a freaking 7, so, it is what it is. Mom life amplifies this, and, well, it clashes hard with what's going on right now. And there's endless loops of, did I pack everybody the right lunch, or reply to that email, or keep my magic flowing without burning out? The inner critic, that false reason, screamed, slow down, you're too much. They'll leave if you show the edges. But in a live oracle pull from my Patreon circle, the shadow card from the Wild Unknown deck stared back, and it was a figure dissolving into ink black wings. And in that moment, the whisper came. Not from fear, but from me. The real me. What if this unraveling is the reason? What if holding back is the real cage? It wasn't a shout, it was a nudge, like a crow tapping my shoulder, and just like that, I leaned in. Scheduled that boundary setting ritual, and, well, I let my big kids see Mama's messy magic. And the world didn't end. It expanded. Because, well, now in their grown-upness, they understood. So, how do we recognize this true voice? Let's thread it practical, because magic without roots is just wind, right? First, discernment. The false voice of reason feels like chains, heavy, urgent, laced with or else. It loops on worst case what ifs. If you speak up, you'll be alone, for instance. The true one, she's steady as hearthstone, expansive, often inconvenient, but never cruel. And she says, what if you did leap? What wisdom waits on the other side? And what wisdom indeed, right? What's your shadow whispering right now? Quick, jot it down. No judgment. Just the raw thread. Journal it. And for our second thread, the concept of self as a compass, right? So in astrology, we think Pluto in the chart, or the shadow planet, right? The transformer of depths. It doesn't coddle, it excavates, right? For me, my Pluto has a perfectionist grip. It whispers, reason isn't flawless, it's fierce enough to rest, right? Yours might be in Scorpio, urging you to trust the intuitive gut over the logical ledger. Or maybe Libra, balancing nice with the necessary no, right? Because no, period, is a complete sentence. So, having a 9 soul urge in numerology like mine, I crave completion through the release of things, right? So, my shadow often whispers, let go to gain, right? So I tune into that by taking walks and meditating deeply before I go to sleep. And I often ask, self, what's the next reasonable step for me? Not the world's version, but mine. Right? Now, I'll tell a little bit of a story, just so we can breathe a little bit of life into this concept, right? I once had a listener. We'll call her Ellen, okay? She sent me a message after one of my YouTube lives, and she said, "Magic Mom, my shadow's screaming. I'm a single mom, numerology 4, all structure and build, but every full moon this wild itch hits. Do I quit the job and chase art? The reason in my head says no, and chaos awaits," right? So we pulled a couple cards, and the devil reversed came out. And it's about bondage loosening, right? And she just whispered, "The real reason is freedom. Build your structure, not theirs." And right then, she started to unravel it. Because that's what I help y'all do, right? Unravel it. I can't unravel it for you, but I can hand you the thread. So, we started with the shadow journaling first, and she dumped all those critics' lies on the paper, right? And then a tiny edge walk. 1 hour a week, no guilt. It didn't matter if it was 5 minutes one day and 30 minutes the next. That was her goal, okay? And that voice did start to grow clearer. Not louder. This is self, she said later. Not reckless, but reasonable rebellion. And that's, the magic shadow as an ally, turning what if from fear to a portal. And that's what we're doing. Turning that shadow into an ally. From what if to what if, So, we're going to pause really quick. I'm going to invite you to maybe pull your own card mentally, or if you're feeling it, draw your own card in actuality, or just close your eyes while I pull a card out and ask your shadow, what reasonable truth have I ignored? And I want you to let her whisper back while I hold some space, right? Tell me what card you got as you were shuffling. We have one more thread to pull before we weave. The danger of mistaking false for true. The critic voice, right? It's the echo of the old wounds. The parental, be practical. The societal, fit in. And it often masquerades as reason because survival wired us that way. But the self's voice, it's laced with compassion. It meets you in the mess. It says, you're human. Unraveling is holy. So listen for that felt sense of warmth in your chest and not knots in your gut. Right? By now, the hearth's glow feels different, doesn't it? It's less edge and more invitation. And your shadow isn't lurking to pounce. She's leaning in, ready to co-author the story. And so, we pause at this edge, threads loosened, but not lost. And remember that the real voice of reason isn't a warden. It's the self's steady hand, whispering from the shadows we once feared. Honor her tonight. Start small. And before bed tonight, I want you to light a candle, or, using your phone's glow, whisper to your reflection. Shadow sister, speak your truth. And journal the reply. No filter. That's your ritual seed. You're going to plant it tonight. And we're going to grow it into magic together. So if this unraveled something tender in your hearth's heart, why don't you share it in the comments? Or join our Patreon circle for a even more private peek. What's your shadow's first word back? And we'll weave it into the future edges. Next time on Hearth's Edge Unraveled, we are going to dive into forgiveness at the hearth spring. And I'm going to share a guest story of betrayal turned into a heart's balm. We're going to add in a little bit of a numerology lens on her healing cycle. So, it'll drop on the next new moon, so don't miss that poll. Until then, tend your flame, hearth keepers. You're the magic, my loves. And this is Majik Mom, signing off from the hearth. Sweet unravelings, my friends.